Freya?
What was Mallory's proposal?
Mallory?
I'd like to propose that.
Mallory?
I'd like to propose that the big kids get 2 whole bits and the cottage kids get one bit of bread at supper time. Dished out on their plate through the hatch.
Neill? Neill?
About this bread question, I think it's a much wider question, the whole question of food. There's a tremendous lot of food being wasted in the school.
Neill?
Well, about this question of bread and food generally, there's a tremendous lot of wastage going on in the school. And I blame this shop outside. Everybody whose money goes there in the morning, they buy lollipops, iced lollies, and a lot of stuff that is no good to them, whatever. They come in here and there's an excellent meal waiting for them, and they leave it, they chuck it away. And I don't know the remedy. I wish we hadn't got a tuck shop near us, but we can't help that. I propose then that nobody's allowed to go to the tuck shop till after lunch. That we make that a school law, no tuck shop till after lunch. That's a proposal, Mr. Chairman. Will you take it? I'll have a discussion on
Neill's
it.
proposal.
Wait a minute. Does anybody want to discuss it first?
No.
All in favour?
When we turn over now, Mr. Chairman, we'll take a vote on that.
Yeah. All in favour? All against? Against gets it. Neill?
All right, Mr. Chairman. We've lost the vote, but what are we going to do about it? Are we going to go on losing food or not? What's the good of cooking to people if they're not going to eat the stuff? I think we ought to give them bread and jam for lunch every day if this is going to go on. I want something else done about it. I mean, you've refused that, but what are we going to do?
Is anybody going to say anything on this?
They came and shot the film, and then when they went away to develop the film, they spoilt all the negatives, and so they needed to come back and do it all again. And because they had asked us to behave in a manner which was not natural, and it interrupted the running of the school, the children were rather unhappy about going through all this again. So we held a general meeting and discussed it in detail, and took a vote on whether Pathé should be allowed to come back and make the film. And it was passed fairly narrow, by a narrow majority, as far as I remember.
Summerhill's been famous and infamous to some people as a free school, a sort of Liberty Hall, for over 42 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think of it as a school only for problem children.
Well, that comes, I think, because when I began, you see, I couldn't get pupils, and I only got the people who were failures in other schools. And at one time, 35 years ago, the school was filled with problems, and I had to deal with them. And then I wrote a book called The Problem Child, which rather gave the school a name. But then, when I wrote The Problem Teacher and The Problem Parent, I think that should have counteracted The Problem Child, but apparently didn't. We get a few problems today. Every child's a problem in a way when it comes to freedom, because it's never been free in its life and it lets off steam, of course, but we don't mind that.
Yes, let's raise the shops. We are really the only ones on Earth. Amazing.
And another thing I object to with grown-ups and parents is obedience. I don't think there should be obedience. If you have obedience, you should have a mutual obedience. I never ask a child to obey me, and a child doesn't ask me to obey him. Why should you? We exploit children, really. We shouldn't do it.
What would you say are the major differences between the way the school is run now and the way the school was run when Neill was director? Does anyone give therapy or private lessons? Do you try to cure unhappiness? Do you still hold general school meetings to set why don't we do that over? Okay, I'll just keep going.
Yeah, take about 3 or 4 second pause and then ask it again.
Do you still hold general school meetings to set policy? Does everyone have equal rights? Children as well as adults? Are Summerhill children happy when they leave the school to go into the world? Do any ever leave unhappy?
Summerhill is the opposite of the ordinary school. The ordinary school, as I say, deals with the intellect and learning in the head. Summerhill deals primarily with the emotions. Now, no child in life gets enough play. But in Summerhill, a child can play for 12 years if he wants to. Nobody compels him to go to lessons or even suggests that he goes to lessons. And that's what's largely wrong with the world, I think, that it's never allowed to play. Schools deal with intellect and school subjects and discipline, molding character. Now, nobody's good enough to tell a child how to live. And you just look around this terribly neurotic world at the moment and wonder how anybody has the pluck that dare to say to a child, you must live like this. Put it this way concretely, if Johnny doesn't want to go to mathematics, it's Johnny's business. If Johnny wants to kick up a row at midnight, it's everybody's business, and that's called license, and he's not allowed by the community. He's brought up to meeting and censored.
But does Johnny at that early age really know what he wants?
Do we ever know what we want? I don't know what I want yet. I don't know what, I'm 87, but I don't know what I want to be yet. Possibly an archaeologist, I don't know. No, we don't bother with things like that. They know what they want, all right.
You are, in fact, on record as saying a school should be judged not by its academic success, but by the faces of its pupils.
Everything you've said implies that you believe in the innate goodness of a child.
I don't believe that a child is born a sinner. I don't believe in that at all. But then, because I've seen so many cases of so-called bad children when they're free and happy becoming good children. On the other hand, I can't account for the hate in the world. I can't account for the Gestapo or Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. I can't account for that. Where does all that hate come from? People say it's original sin. I'm inclined to think that if you suppress love, that it turns into hate. I think hate's only another side of the coin. And I think I've proved that in Summerhill. I've had so many children who came here hating everybody and violent, stealing, destructive. And after a few years, they dropped all that and became friendly, good citizens. We don't get angry. We don't punish anybody. And they're not afraid of us. But that's the atmosphere that should be at home. The home should be like that. A place where there's no fear.
Alex, how long have you been at Summerhill?
2 years nearly.
2 years?
Yeah.
And where are you from?
Zimbabwe originally, but I live in England.
Zimbabwe. And how did you happen to hear about Summerhill?
When I was about 7, I found a book I read. And then I came here when I was roughly about 9.
What book did you find? Summerhill?
Summerhill by A.S. Neill's first book.
And so you found that in a library in Zimbabwe?
Your own library in our house.
In your house, and you read it. You were able to read it at that age? Uh-huh. That's you're kind of young to be reading a book like that, isn't it?
No, not quite. Why? What's wrong with reading at 7?
I mean, what are the ideas that you really think are best in what Neill writes about?
Well, free school, one man, one vote, not one adult, one vote. It's love more freedom.
And more than one person, especially Wilhelm Reich in his brilliant book, The Mass Psychology of Fascism, pointed out that the whole idea of education, from the point of view of the powers that be, is to indoctrinate children so that they be emasculated, to be castrated, to be slaves. So you teach them to obey, you give them sex repression, you give them a religion that inhibits things, and the history and geography and things don't matter, because these are the things that you forget. You forget everything. I've forgotten everything, so have you. Most of the things you learn at school. Well, now you can't abolish authority in the community. You must have some law. I mean, some people can't ride on the left and some on the right. So having abolished adult authority, we have a community ruling. We meet on a Saturday night, the youngest and the oldest, everybody, and we make laws. And that's called self-government, and they make quite sensible laws.
Though Summerhill is known as a free school, there are still rules, but rules made by the children themselves in a democratic council. Rules to protect the interests of the whole community from disturbances from inside or from intrusions from outside.
The number of rules got longer and longer and longer until nobody could remember what all the rules were. And so when this happened, someone would propose we abolish all of the rules and start again.
They were completely free to do what they liked, to play as long as they wanted. And the result was, when they came to work, they could do in 2 years. They could pass exams in 2 years, where they might have been 5 or 6 years at an ordinary school, cramming stuff they didn't believe in, they didn't like. So that's the 3 points in Summerhill: freedom to be yourself, not molded, freedom to play, and freedom in general.
Freedom to play and not to work. Freedom both to smoke and to swear. And the freedom of mixed nude bathing. As a bastion of liberalism, it's outraged the tabloids and locals alike.
I mean, there's got to be discipline somewhere, hasn't there? If it doesn't start at home, you hope the school will do it. I've been in it. That was enough for me. No, don't think so.
If you want any clues, look at the heavy faces all round. Notice the pencil in one note there. The answer is, they're at school, having a lesson. The new term has begun at Summerhill, the most amazing school in the world, run by a headmaster that nobody calls sir. To the pupils, he's just plain Neill. To the outside world, he's Mr. A.S. Neill, educational pioneer.
If his pupils don't want to go to lessons, they just stay away. If when they get there they're bored, they do anything they like. How do the teachers teach when it isn't compulsory to pay attention? It's up to them to make the subject interesting. Otherwise, the pupils might vote to chuck them out for being dull. The children make their own rules at a weekly parliament where they decide such things.
This is supposed to represent us having a lesson. But in fact, lessons were never like that. This pillow fight was staged for the benefit of the film.
Give me that again, looking about there on your feet. Looking at my finger.
What was it again?
Anybody got anything to say about this?
Has anybody got anything to say about this?
Can you mention the film?
And the film, yes. I've been asked to explain briefly about these two people here. So I don't know your names, but they are doing they are friendly people. Okay. I think that's all I have to say is that we view them friendly. They are making a film, a documentary film for Channel 4 television in the UK, and they are making it from a point of view of an anthropological study, and they are going to spend the whole of next term here filming it. So it will be hopefully quite an in-depth and quite a sympathetic and well-understood documentary. But they will be around, so don't shy away, and they are friendly. Okay? Right?
It must be said that those 6 months that the film crew were here, we had about 17 new children, and a lot of them were very disruptive, and a lot of them, the majority, left a term later. This wasn't the right place for them. We also had a much-loved Japanese child die in that term through asthma. It was a very difficult term. It wasn't the best term to have someone doing a documentary. Having said that, there were at times really lovely things going on in that term, which the film crew totally avoided, and they did concentrate on conflict, of which there was quite a lot in that term. So it's probably the worst public relations.
She jumped on the bar. You can tap outside. You know myxomatosis. All the rabbits get disease. Then we won't have any rabbits at all.
In this scene, Henry, an older boy, is shown chasing and killing a diseased rabbit. But was this fairly represented by the filmmakers?
They showed sort of like us chasing it around, and they showed me killing it. There was a brief thing of me saying, "Oh, it's got myxomatosis," but it didn't show enough of the whole thing. I mean, obviously, I would have preferred it if it wasn't on the film. I regret doing it now, but it was something that I felt that I had to do.
Is it in there? Yeah. Hey guys, I really don't want a crowd.
I did actually tell the camera people to not film it. I didn't want them to be around, but they sort of said, "No, we won't show it anyway."
At the time the film came out, it was pretty traumatic in many respects. Although before the film came out, I knew that it was very unlikely that any film that was made I would actually like. I think, unless I was actually directing it myself.
Oh my God. It's really sorry about
Summerhill School, set out 47 years. Voilà 50 ans que les enfants ont de la majorité ici. Oui, c'est le parlement va jour augmenter les remettre liberté.
Ce film sera montré à plusieurs millions de personnes.
Right, bring them over and I'll get rid of them, okay?
Are you going to put them back? Or
Yes, I'm going to put them back. They don't belong here, do they? To police ourselves.
We began with young children, and it was very difficult to make laws when they weren't ready to make laws. But they gradually, in our self-government meetings, they gradually begin to learn what social control is and community living is. The meeting doesn't mean much to them when they're 6, but gradually they begin to understand what it's all about.
The self-regulation, can you explain exactly what that means?
It's very difficult to describe that.
Most children come here with the idea that this is a free school where they can do as they like, which of course is not true, because they are bound in by the laws of the community. And if they transgress them, they are charged by their peers.
What's the sort of social background of the children who are at
It's just varied, you know. I mean, most of the parents who send their kids to Summerhill want them to come to our, you know, to live in our environment.
Right.
I think we've got in this country almost 2 systems of education. We've got the state system, and we've got private education, and I'd include Summerhill in that, where it's possible maybe for those who have the financial resources to almost play the system as they wish, and those without suffer what's left.
Right.
And to me, that's wrong.
Come on, James. Come on.
All right.
James, come on.
I got your message.
Jump off. James. Okay, I'll just jump off.
Hey, do you want to not film me and piss off? Oh, fuck, I said do you not want to film me. Now piss off. Fuck off, Kevin. I'm bringing you up, okay? I'm going to kick that camera out your arm. Now turn around.
Fuck off.
Tell him to stop filming.
Tell me, if you're accused of doing something in the meeting, do you admit it if you've done it?
No.
Why not?
Well, I don't want to get caught. I don't want to get caught.
Are you afraid?
Of what?
Of admitting it?
Well, no, but it's better not to admit it because it doesn't really matter if you lie here. And I don't lie very much outside. If you say I haven't done it, it doesn't pin it on anybody else. It just means it just doesn't get blamed on you.
Yeah, but isn't it unfair to, you know, not to own up, really?
Well, it can be, but I'm just unfair.
Why?
I don't know. I just don't tell.
Were you unfair before you came here in your other schools?
Well, I never did anything because I couldn't.
You mean you were the sort of goody-goody in your other schools?
Well, I wasn't goody-goody. It's just that, well, you couldn't be very batty-batty because there's always this Mrs. Harper looking at you. She's this woman who's always raising her eyebrows, and she has veins. Her eyeball is also veiny, and she just stares at you.
Yeah, go on.
Well, I don't know, and she used to keep a watchful eye over us, and we couldn't do anything bad.
So really, you've taken the opportunity now you've got here?
No, I don't do too much bad here. The bad things I usually do are the things I think are unreasonable. I admit doing most things bad, but, you know, there's some things which I just break simply because I'm bored. I don't admit to those.
Why'd you get bored?
There's nothing to do.
It's 10 a.m. in the morning, and most British children are hard at work in class. But here at Summerhill, children can choose whether to attend lessons or not. And as you can see, most of them don't. But given the current emphasis on the 3 R's, government inspectors are disturbed by this regime. And if changes recommended in this report aren't carried out, the school could eventually close.
Ofsted inspectors have given it an ultimatum: improve standards or face closure within 6 months.
Undeterred, the children held their own press conference in the house.
So far, no one involved in closing down Summerhill has listened to our voices, even when prompted, and hopefully that will change today.
This identified, my lords, problems of attendances at lessons. It identified problems of progress not being properly assessed. It also observed poor teaching in a quarter of lessons observed.
And the stuff they've asked us to do completely changes the philosophy of the school.
Mr. Blunkett also said, what is most important is parental satisfaction. Summerhill does have 100% parental satisfaction, so shouldn't that at least mean something?
It's important that we've come down here and we've had our voices heard, and that the people that have come here, it's good that we're being heard at last, because no one doing anything to do with this case, apart from our lawyers and the people on our side, have listened to us at all.
Article 12 made a joint decision because it's about promoting the rights of young people and the right to be listened to and taken seriously and respected. And we thought that Summerhill was like a complete example of what we stood for, and the thought they were shutting down is just like completely violating what we believe is right for young people, for everyone.
Blowing whistles and waving banners, more than 60 pupils and staff from Summerhill School marched on Downing Street.
Since Ofsted, the school's MP John Gummer says Summerhill should remain open.
I support the right of parents to choose the education that their children shall have. And because I happen to want to take a different view from that.
Over the 68 years that Summerhill has been in operation, where do the children come from? Are they sent by their parents for the same reasons that children were sent before?
Well, it's fairly broad. At the moment, there are a lot of foreign children. Our fees are pretty low compared to most private schools. I mean, it's only private because that's the only way it can run, you know, so the fees are as low as they possibly can be. The school relies on its fees to support the school, to run the business. No government has ever offered Summerhill any money, and I think if the British government offered us money, we would be very suspicious. I'm not prepared to take it.
No, the family can be a very dangerous thing. Just saying that's the family that presses all the time and makes the children guilty and fearful and all the rest of it.
Summerhill is more like a large family than a school. A family where the children have the freedom to follow their own interests wherever they may lead.
Has the Summerhill School wavered from its principles of the founding of your father who founded it?
No, it hasn't wavered in its principles. I think it's been, you know, as the world changes, so the children that come to us change. And obviously emphasis at certain times will be on different things, but the actual general principles of the school are the same now as they were when Neill was running it.
Okay, what would you change about Summerhill if you could?
Well, that's a hard one. I reckon I would change something about the meeting, because we do have a lot of pointless cases. There's a lot of kids who bring up things which could easily be solved by, like an ombudsman, for example. I do tend to go to as many meetings as I can. But there's a lot of times, if I know, for example, there's a lot of little kids who are going to bring up, you know, little cases, I tend to think I'm not going to go, because it's just going to go on for 2 hours and it's going to be really annoying, and we'll all be sitting in there and everyone's going to wish that they're not in the meeting, which just makes it even longer.
Do you think bringing up cases in the meetings are embarrassing?
Yeah,
Why?
because I don't really like talking in front of many people.
Do you think it's embarrassing? Well, it's kind of like having a conversation with loads of people. But, yeah, a bit.
Do you believe we have an issue with technology, that the people are becoming less social and so on?
Well, yes, they're definitely becoming less social, but if it's their choice, and really at that young age, when I was the same age, it's not like I went to more lessons when there wasn't technology like that around. So really, I think they're going to grow up maybe less social than we were, but they're going to...
Can you think of any way to rectify this problem?
Could get rid of the screens, but then I think it'd be a bit unfair taking away a lot of the freedom that they have here. I don't know, do you think this 3 o'clock rule for screening's working well?
I don't think it's working as long as the little kids and the carriage kids are cooperating to make them be able to game all day, which has been happening lately. You can't exactly bust them because you knock on their door and they turn off all the screens, then they unlock the door and it's...
harder to catch them.
Yeah, but obviously we can't take the locks away from the carriage kids, so... Have you ever denied anything in a meeting which was true?
Yeah, I have. I wasn't lying for myself, I was covering up for my friends. Yeah. There was a case, something to do with bullying, and they were really good friends of mine, and you know, I shouldn't have lied about it, but I didn't want them to get into trouble because they'd gone into quite a lot of trouble, and that could have been like a point where they'd been sent home or something, and I really didn't want that to happen, so I did cover up for them.
You get crazy, like, must win game, must win. And then you just
scared.
Yeah, you are intense. And then I laugh at you, or I cry, and then you just laugh at me, so.
It's not a lot of people are capable of laughing at themselves anymore.
SpongeBob?
Not good.
Why?
Not good for little kids.
He lives in a pineapple under the sea. SpongeBob SquarePants. What's the matter with him?
Teaches them how to bully. That's generally wrong with TV. It teaches people how to bully and how to laugh at other people. Teaches them to laugh when somebody gets smacked with a pan over the head.
Ouch.
Yeah, it hurts. It might look funny, but imagine you're the one who gets smacked. You'd be in pain.
I think SpongeBob's nice, because like you learn that hitting is bad, and you don't say mean things about people. But I think SpongeBob. I like SpongeBob when I was small.
Someone proposed that you're allowed to screen after 12, and I think that's really silly because everyone will just be screening literally all day. Some people, they just like always screen when they get the opportunity to. They play some games like Minecraft and stuff, and it's just really annoying because you never see anybody outside anymore, or like climbing trees, let's say, but everyone's just screening all the time.
Yeah. I think it would be different if it was summer though, because it's like snowing and it's partly sunny.
Yeah, I understand the winter thing, but some people they'll fill up with screening through the party and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
so
really
he
sad.
would be screening in summer when the pool's open. Like, I'm not talking about everyone, but a few people do.
Yeah.
Some people come in, they just think it's lazy, everyone's out of lessons, you know, screening just in their rooms all day. It's not true though. I mean, maybe in the winter times it's a little, but everyone really goes to lessons.
Yeah. Do you think you enjoy lessons more in Summerhill than you did in...
Oh yeah. The thing about lessons here is that you've got, what, 3 to 5, maybe 6 people in a lesson, and it's more like a one-on-one with the teacher. If they're talking and you didn't quite catch it, you know, if there's 20 other kids in your class, you're not going to shout out loud, what did you just say?
Yeah.
But here you can talk to the teacher and go back.
I mean, when I first came, I didn't go to lessons because I thought I don't have to. You know, I might as well make the most of it. But, I mean, there's 2 reasons that I go to lessons. A lot of the time I get really bored where I think, okay, I'll go to a lesson because it's something to do. Or it's also the fact that here the lessons are a lot different. They're like fun.
Yeah.
The fact that I don't have to go to lessons definitely affects the way I think about it. I mean, I tend to want to go to lessons a lot more if I don't have to.
Yeah.
Because then, I don't know, there's not that sense of, I don't know. I just think Yeah.
Do you think we should have a certain age at which we're allowed to start using laptops and that?
That'd be interesting. I mean, most people in general don't get laptops till they're like 12, so...
But some of the younger generation...
Yes, this new generation has definitely been getting it when they're younger, so...
What are your thoughts on specific zones where we're allowed to use computers?
I think there's already quite a big restriction, especially for the younger kids, because they don't have plugs in their room, so they have to find an area with a plug where they can spend the day and not get kicked out.
Do you think the older generation are influencing the younger generation into this sort of gaming?
There's a chance of it, but I think it's just as technology develops and more new games come out, everyone gets more interested in them and all the new Call of Duty games, so of course I think there's going to be more people playing them the more they come out.
On the subject of Call of Duty, do you think it's a bit too violent to let that even be in the school? Because some would argue that.
No, because I like violence. I think it's fun make-believe violence, so...
The thing that really annoys me is like when there's the party and the little kids is full. It's just the little kids are only stay up to play games. Because at the party, we can stay up.
So why don't you propose that you can't, or why don't you make a new law that you can't? Huh?
Yeah, well, why not?
Oh my God, what was the name of the starfish? The big puffy?
Don't know.
Patrick, wasn't it?
Maybe. But he tags along when SpongeBob says something. He tags along. That shows the power. That shows the power play. SpongeBob has the power of Patrick.
I just used to think that SpongeBob was a stupid yellow sponge.
And I'm also seeing it with my cousins because they literally are in front of the TV all the time.
Why?
They do not laugh properly. They laugh as like a fake laugh.
How old are they?
13 and 9. No. I think so partly that I have such a strong opinion about SpongeBob. It's because I wasn't allowed to watch it when I was a little kid. And I've only realized a month ago why there was such a good reason that I wasn't allowed to watch it.
Oh.
That is a reason to protect me from turning into my cousins, from laughing at other people when they're hurt.
Oh.
Do you have friends outside Summerhill?
Only 2, because last holidays we were gonna go and visit some friends, and then only one of them came because the other one just wanted to stay home watching a movie.
What do they think about Summerhill?
There's 2 that really want to go to Summerhill, and her mum also wants them to go to Summerhill, but they don't have enough money, so they don't go really to any school.
Oh. Would you like them to be here?
Yes, quite much, because every time me and my sister would talk about Summerhill, they always get kind of sad because they want to go to Summerhill.